On this week's episode, our fascination continues. Bethesda and Xbox are a match made in gaming heaven, and just how popular are sports cards? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all our shows, and if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where we're now over 900 followers strong and counting, so follow us there. YouTube, we've got a ton of subscribers there. We cannot thank you enough for doing so. And now, of course, on Twitch, we just truly appreciate everybody going ahead and signing up there as followers, following all of our interviews, all of the stuff that we post as far as from the PCC Multiverse and Pop Culture Cosmos. And, of course, our constant, almost daily, almost every single day, full of just tabletop RPG gaming. Almost every single day we throw out a new game out there for you. We just cannot thank you enough for doing so. And of course, it is truly appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. It's our own Castle PCC on the Twitter and Instagram. You got to go ahead and catch him today at Castle with a K PCC. It is a good man indeed. It is a good man indeed. It is our drone master for Pop Culture Cosmos. It is Marcus De La Garza. And Marcus, thanks for coming back on the show once again, my friend.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things. You know, it's every week I set my watch and I'm here, and I really enjoy it. And just always thank you to the Pop Culture Cosmos family for having me back. Just hanging out with you and Josh, especially when we do the crossover episodes. It's always just a great time. So.
Oh, without him, I guess it's just like, chopped liver with me.
Okay. You know how it is, Gerald. Like, we have that weird energy that happens when all three of us are together, and it turns into something really special. So, we were almost going to have the great, magnificent Josh with us today, and it just didn't work out. So, Josh, enjoy your time off, but we'll get back to you soon.
Yes, we will. I actually will see him for the Monday show, so looking forward to that. I know Marcus keeps on threatening that he's going to be invading the Pop Culture Cosmos Twitch page with some really good drone action and also conversation as well. So look forward to that in the not too distant future. Also as well, again, follow us there on Twitch or on Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your social media. Thank you so much for the heart, knowing, and find. We truly appreciate it. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on Falcon and Winter Soldier, Justice League, and so much more in the coming weeks. And at the back end of the podcast, we will talk about if we're still excited for the big week ahead in pop culture with Justice League and of course, Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming back-to-back on Thursday and Friday of next week. But that we're going to go ahead and save for the end of the show. We also have as today's guest an outstanding guest indeed. It is Vince Atullo coming back to us from That Sports Card Show podcast. He is reviving his podcast, and he has to. He's going to bring on a co-host, and he has to be talking sports cards because sports cards and the sports card industry is booming right now. Millions of dollars are being traded out there, auctioned off. You might even have a card that's really valuable. So he's going to be on the back half of the show talking about the sports card industry, why it's booming, the great interest into it, and if you should go ahead and invest now in the sports card industry. But first up, my friend, I know you wanted to touch on the subject that we don't normally deal with, but it's also a big shout out to all of the radio stations in the UK that airs our shows, and I cannot thank you enough for doing so. And that is the royal family. They had as far as that's concerned, of what's going on there. And I don't want to go into too much of the tabloid stuff or the deep and dark stuff that's in there. Obviously, some of the statements that were made by Meghan Markle were just truly disappointing to hear as far as that type of stuff that might be going on within the confines of the royal family as far as racism and obviously the thoughts that she had. I mean, they were just very troublesome indeed. She did have a major interview with her and Prince Harry, along with Oprah Winfrey earlier this week that aired to a massive audience here in the United States. 17 million people watched it live, and I'm sure millions more have watched some form of it on any type of social media thereafter. And another 11 million have watched it the next day in the UK. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, on this. You really wanted to bring this up. You're really passionate about this whole concept. And normally, like I said, we don't normally delve and touch on this, but I think what it comes down to, and we made the call on this, is that people in the United States and the UK are still fascinated by what's going on with the royal family.
Yeah, Gerald, that was one of those things. When we talked about this earlier this week, there was a big discussion amongst the hosts of the podcast of, is this pop culture? And, ultimately we had to settle on yes. I mean, at 28 million streams or 28 million viewers, and I think Oprah got paid $7 million for the interview to be sold to CBS. I mean, that's popular culture right there. You can't really.
Oprah, all props to you. I would love to be paid $7 million to sit on a wicker chair on some patio furniture. That would be great to just be sitting down and chatting on some patio furniture. I would love it.
Yeah, I mean, for real, man. But it was one of those things. Watching the interview itself. We're not jumping into the content. Like you discussed. But
speaking of the patio furniture, I got to tell you. That patio furniture featured, or actually wasn't actually intentionally featured, but they were just sitting out in the backyard, and they had all of them were sitting on that patio furniture. The company who owns that, or the guy who owns the company who makes that, is a former Brady Bunch member, Christopher Knight. Yeah, Peter Brady, the middle Brady.
That's so crazy, man. It's a small Hollywood pop culture world, man.
And of course, everything sells out, and they had to make a statement how overwhelmed they are because they've literally sold out of that set within a day or two afterwards. So you just see the fascination there. It all ties into this fascination.
Yep.
I guess the world still has with the royal family.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, our obsession, especially in this country, with Disney fairy tales. We look at what the royal family represents. It's a prince, it's a princess, it's the figurehead for your nation.
The queen.
Yeah, and it's something that we don't have the luxury of having here in the States. You have a politician who is also your figurehead, and sometimes you don't like that person, and it's easier to like that person if they are apolitical, a la the queen. But that being said, she's in a little bit of hot water, and or the royal family seems to be in a little bit of hot water here. I do want to say though, it's weird that we do always fall back on this obsession with the royal family here in the States. But it really is, man. I think it is our obsession with fairy tales, and Disney has given us this. The fact that we don't have a prime minister, not a prime minister, but a figurehead, to kind of be the liaison with other nations. And
well, we do an official, our president.
But I mean, we don't have an apolitical figure that can.
I think it's just all the pomp and the circumstance and the things that fascinate us about. Every time there's a royal wedding, huge ratings, huge interest from all over North America, all over the world. Always. Yeah, and, they're fascinated by when Meghan and Harry got married, when William and Kate got married, et cetera, or when there's a royal birth or something like that. It's always a source of fascination because, like you said, it's that fairy tale type mentality. I think a lot of us still like to have that there's a king and a queen and a prince and a princess type deal, even though there's no king at this time. But, it's that type of mentality that we still like to hold our imaginations on fairy tales is the reason I think we still hold on to our fascination with the royal family. And yes, there are some people that love the thought of having a scandal within the royal family. I know obviously people have been opportunistic on it. I just like to look at it from the standpoint that it seems that when I see the numbers, 17 million here, 11 million here, and then you see the millions and millions of streams and stuff on social media that's getting millions and millions of views, it just shows that we as a community still have a fascination for this type of part of our culture.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's I'm kind of the mindset that it's a little bit crazy that this is still a huge part of our culture, a huge part of our mindset of trying to gather this information, really soak it in and view it as entertainment. But it's not for me to dictate what popular culture is, but it is on me to talk about it. So,
Well,
with that being,
I was telling you, I was just racking my brain as far as remembering the exact definition of what popular culture is. And that's the reason why ultimately we decided to just talk about it just for a few minutes, is just because that it, within what's going on, it's partly defined in that definition of popular culture is what's going on. So, anytime you have this type of major event going on within the confines of the royal family, I think it provides a continual fascination and a source of conversation, source of news, source of whether it's, I understand the tabloid and the dark side of it, but there's also the regular, the CNBC, Fox, MSNBC, whatever major news outlet that you're looking at, whatever major newspaper, whatever major news internet, source of information that you're using. It's earlier this week, it was the biggest news story of anything, beating coronavirus, beating anything. So, it's just something that, whether you like it or not, it has to be talked about when it concerns pop culture.
Yeah, dude, it's I hate it, but at the same time, I love it. It gives us something to really dive deep on, and Gerald, at this point, I think that we've talked more royal family than I ever have heard you talk, and you have talked more royal family today than you've probably talked in the last 10 years, I'm guessing.
Well, I had these conversations earlier this week, my family, who are fascinated with what's going on. Yeah, they've got the videos. They've got my wife and my daughter. They're watching the videos pop up on the whatever, Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever. They're watching all the videos and trying to find out more. It's become a source of fascination for them previously in regards to how they can relate to what's going on with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, or what's going on with William Kate. It seems to be a great fascination with people. And I'm not trying to mock it. I'm not trying to make fun of it at all. I'm trying to say it is part of our culture and it's extremely popular. So we'll go ahead and say, you know what? If you're into it, it's obviously a source of conversation, and it's obviously a great source of news and information for a lot of people out there. And when 18 million plus people are tuning in to that Oprah interview, it tells me that the royal family is not going away anytime soon. What are your thoughts out there on what's going on with the latest controversy within the confines of the royal family and their overall popularity all over the world? Are you still into watching their every move like so many people are out there? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. Bethesda and Xbox, speaking of Europe, speaking of things that are going on in Europe, the United States, and also I think the Federal Trade, FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and also the European Union finally said, okay, it's a nice deal. Bethesda and Xbox, you can finally get together, have a nice. So the day after Bethesda and Xbox had that deal, Xbox went on the air. Xbox had a little thing that they said, okay, we thank you so much. Now we're all this great partnership. It's all peace and love. It's all great. And then today they talked about the future, or at least a little bit of the future, as far as some of the existing games on the platform for Bethesda. So the Xbox Games Pass, as we talked about before, for the Xbox Series X, Xbox One, the Xbox Games Pass, which is their games-based, subscription-based system, is really what they're going to be pushing over the course of the lifetime of what the Xbox Series X is going to be. And that's something they really want to focus. They want Xbox Games Pass, which is a conglomeration of games that they've got, older or current games that they've got, that they want you to go ahead and play on all one platform. You can just pay one price and have access to all these games. They want you to go ahead and have this be a part of your life going forward as a gamer. And they want this ultimately to become the Netflix of gaming, so to speak, to use as a reference, or the Disney Plus of gaming, or whatever you want to reference at this point in time.
Yep.
And congratulations again to Disney Plus, who officially went over 100 million. Bob Chapek said, and I also want to mention that Bob Chapek, as of now, Disney CEO, said that we're still a go for May 7th for Black Widow. but how it's going to be determined, how it's going to be released is still up in the air. But I think it's going to be, we'll go ahead and touch on that.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
But Bethesda and Xbox are playing nice now. They're all together under the same Xbox umbrella. And if you're an Xbox Game Pass owner, you're going to get dropped on you 20 different games from the Bethesda library, including Dishonored, Dishonored 2, Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, Doom Eternal, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Prey, Rage 2, The Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind, The Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion, my favorite, The Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls Online, The Elder Scrolls Online, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein, The New Order, excellent game, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, that's also an excellent game, Wolfenstein Youngblood, that's great DLC added on there too as well. So all those games are going to be dumped onto Xbox Game Pass by the time you hear this. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. This is a great announcement for gamers to have so much more on their plate when it comes to Xbox Game Pass. But with Nintendo having their Direct announcing a couple things a couple weeks ago, Pokemon having their Direct announcing a couple things, I think it was a little over a week ago, and Sony State of Play also announced some things, although that was kind of underwhelming, announcing some things, about a week ago. Wouldn't it have been nice if Xbox used this platform to talk about some upcoming things that they have with Bethesda? Wouldn't that have been a great opportunity to showcase what they have coming up and as far as their future for them and Bethesda? Yes, they announced that they're going to have separate press conferences with Bethesda and Xbox at E3. Yes, they announced that they're going to do something in the summer of gaming with Bethesda. That's just great. But for right now, wouldn't it have been great to go ahead and say, you know what, we're the last up on this list in the past weeks of all the major gaming publishers that are out there? Wouldn't it have been nice if they just went ahead and say, you know what, we've got a lot of good stuff on the way for you too.
Yeah, and I want to be with you, but it kind of feels like we're a little bit of a we're not begging, but we're
well, right now's a low point, man, because since Hitman 3 has come out, there's been not a whole lot as far as AAA or marquee games coming out for console owners at this point in time.
Look, Gerald, this is classic COVID marketing strategy. What happened here? Let's give people 20 titles that have been remastered. That doesn't.
No, they haven't been remastered. They said at some point some of them will be touched up, but they're just throwing them up there for people.
Well, yeah, all right. So even more of a classic COVID marketing situation here. Let's just get people excited, period, and see if the stuff that we're going to release down the line benefits from us throwing this old content out here. This is something that we've seen with a lot of the streaming platforms going exclusive with certain titles. This isn't exclusive to the video game industry here. But what bothers me is, we didn't get a teaser. We didn't get anything here to tell us that, hey, stay tuned because we've got some good stuff to come this summer other than, just a little bit of word of mouth that said, hey, by the way, stay tuned. We'll have something for you in a few months. But
would have been nice to know, Starfield. Would have been nice to see a little bit of Elder Scrolls or maybe
anything, man.
Wolfenstein.
But hold on. I do want to say, though, I do appreciate the games we got. And just like you said, the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, great game. Oblivion, outstanding game. Skyrim, I really didn't play enough of. So I would, if I had an Xbox, which I don't, and I don't have a PS5 either, but that might be changing soon. That's one of those things. I would, if I was sitting here today and had to choose between the two, I'd still go PS5. But the Game Pass makes this a lot more attractive, man. Especially with these games that I grew up with and I played, once through before. I really enjoyed. When we start talking about some of the Wolfenstein stuff, this is. I think this was a great deal, and this is what Phil Spencer was talking about when he said that, they're trying to set this up as Xbox having the exclusive content moving forward from here, and that's what all the Bethesda purchase was all about. Let's give the Xbox players the superior experience, and I think they're doing that with the Bethesda work into the Game Pass. Unfortunately, it's not the news that you and I wanted to hear today, but I think this is going to be huge moving forward. Getting this quality of title on Game Pass really sets the bar very, very, very high. We shouldn't be seeing just a we shouldn't just be seeing, kind of just whatever games. We should be seeing some really great content that has been very successful throughout the years. And so, I'm on board with this one. I understand why you're upset. I'm a little bit upset, but at the end of the day, I'm okay with this one.
Well, the only thing that I wanted to add on top of this is Xbox head, Xbox, the guy in charge of Xbox, Phil Spencer, was in interviews after that stating that there would be some exclusives to the Xbox platform when it concerns Bethesda, and maybe some that aren't. So again, this goes back to a conversation that we've had, I think, on more than one occasion on the future of Bethesda and Xbox. If you were running Xbox, what would you be doing as far as the upcoming slate of Bethesda games? I mean, Starfield looks like, since it's a brand new IP, I would say that, okay, make that an Xbox deal. That, if it becomes wildly popular, you can always release it to PlayStation and Nintendo and whatnot. I mean, and by the way, when we talk about exclusive, it's anything that's coming out just to Xbox is also coming out to PC. They meant Xbox and PC together. So it's just not PS5 or Nintendo when we say this. But what I want to ask you is, if you're running Xbox Studios, what would you be actually making specific to Xbox and PC? And what would you be making for entirely a cross-platform experience?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head just a couple of seconds ago when you said that, any new IP, if I think that it's going to be a killer, I think I start on the Xbox platform. Whether it's the X or the S, you release that solely exclusively for Xbox and PC, and you guarantee that you have a winner on your hands. That alone could sway future purchases of consoles, right? Like if you have a game that's just outstanding, new intellectual property, it's coming in, it's Xbox exclusive. If you have people that are still searching for units, like me, that could sway a decision here. If I heard that from you, Gerald, if say you got a Xbox on me, which I don't think you did you? You didn't tell me about it.
No, not at this time, but I'm good. Okay. I'm good.
Okay, but say you got one, and we were sitting here talking about it. You're like, hey man, this new game, outstanding. You really should look at getting an Xbox. I think that alone could sway me if I was still sitting here looking at the stock issues that we're running into today. I work in a lab with 5 other people. We're all still searching for our units. I think living in Florida has really put us behind the 8 ball here because there are so many people. There are so many people looking for any console right now. It kind of sucks, but at the same time, we're going to get there. Eventually we'll get some units. Man, I'm of the mindset. You hit it right out the gate, man. Just go ahead. Let's make these new IPs exclusive to Xbox. If they have success, then we port them to PS4, but let's not spend more money or time than we have to. If we have, a banger on our hands, if we have a grade A AAA title, let's go. Let's just push it straight to Xbox and get everybody hooked and over onto our platform.
I spent $7+ billion on this company. I would want to at least start out with exclusivity on the Elder Scrolls or Fallout. I would take one of those games. I would take one of those. I would start out with a year of exclusivity. I wouldn't tell anybody though, but I would start out with a year of exclusivity on the Xbox because I've spent $7 billion. And the only way that Xbox is going to gain an advantage on PlayStation, because right now PlayStation's off to an early lead in this current console generation. But okay, let me just say this, and then I think that you've got to go ahead and find your niche. And getting Starfield and making it exclusive, that would be great, but it wouldn't be a game changer. But making an exclusive Elder Scrolls experience or an exclusive Fallout experience would be an awesome, just basic. For Xbox fans, they would just absolutely love it. For PlayStation fans, they would actually revolt, or they might buy Xboxes, which would be the goal then. Again, but you could always, after the hard feelings subside, you could always put it on those platforms afterwards.
Yeah, dude, I understand the strategy there, and I sympathize with that. The only problem I have with it is with a title like Elder Scrolls. You have given the PS players a taste of what that IP is. So it'd be hard for me if I was in that position to want to take it away from an entire user base, right? If we're going to cut the market, you can't really call it 50-50 because you got the Switches in there too. But let's call it
Skyrim was ported onto everything known to mankind, seemingly.
Well, I mean, it was, but if let's just call it, a very basic. We'll cut the market in half. Half of it's Xbox, half of it's PS4. Oversimplifying this, why would you rule out that entire half of the market share here if you're a game studio? And that's the argument that we really haven't talked about. Is not only is Microsoft, and the Xbox umbrella, not only is this a platform or a console by itself, you also are a game studio. So sometimes you're going to have to do some things that aren't always in the best interest of the platform, but will be in the long run because it's in the best interest of the studio. And I think that's where when you start making things exclusive, like Elder Scrolls or Fallout or anything like that, that's where you're going to start losing people and maybe damaging the brand and the overall umbrella in the long run.
I don't know. People say they swear off against it, but if it came out a year and a half later, they would run to it. A game like game like Fallout, or a game like if it's scored well, not like Fallout 76. And then if the Elder Scrolls the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I think those harsh feelings would subside if you decide to go ahead and put it on that platform later at a delayed status. But that's just my opinion. I think gamers would ultimately say, you know what, we're going to bite the bullet and either buy an Xbox right away or go ahead and we'll wait the year and a half, whatever it would take.
I would, in the past, have agreed with you, but I think the COVID economy has made it so that a lot of people, can't afford to grab both right away, and it's from a financial perspective, and the fact that there's just no stock, and so that's where I would argue that you might.
By the time Elder Scrolls does come out, there will be stock. I mean, it's not coming anytime soon.
There will be stock, but we also have to, remember that the average American is not. Average American's hurting right now financially, so it's going to be much harder for them to get both the PS5 and the Xbox, and so that's where I kind of start looking at it. With where we're at with the economy with COVID, you might be doing damage in the long run by just limiting yourself to one platform, but at the same time, that exclusivity does drive people in. So
Xbox has to do something bold in order to get an advantage in this console race, because they're already starting to lose already, and that to me, if I'm Phil Spencer, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of being down to number 2 or number 3 in this console race. I'm tired of it. I want to go ahead and take bold steps. Buying Bethesda for $7+ billion was a bold step, but now I need to go even further. But that's
here's something I've been wondering about. When does Microsoft start strong-arming PlayStation into cross-play with some of the largest titles, right?
That's up to it should be in reverse, man. It should be in reverse. When did these publishers, when does Activision, or when does, not Bethesda per se, but when does Activision, when does EA, when do they step in? When do they go, you know what, we want these cross-platform, or else
we pull out, whatever it is. But I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility here that Microsoft uses this as a strategy to maybe get ahead and start pulling some bad PR for Sony and just say, hey, we've been trying to do this, but Sony has left it on the table throughout. That kind of a move, it's a dirty tactic, but man, you could make up some ground there by telling everyone that, hey, I'm trying to make this a universal experience, and Sony's not doing that. Why don't you come hang out with us? Come play our games that are on Game Pass. You can play with PC players. You can play with whoever you want, man. Just have a good time. So
we'll find out. We'll find out and see what's going on with this continued love affair, and this now that Bethesda's under the umbrella of Xbox. We'll see how that works out. Again, we might have different opinions on exactly how we would shape the future for Bethesda and Xbox, but we both definitely agree that there is a great future for Bethesda now that it's part of the Xbox platform. What are your thoughts out there on Bethesda and Xbox officially getting together? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the half-hour break, my friend, real quick, today, as we're recording this, is March 11th, 2021, which is the anniversary of the 1 year anniversary per se. I don't know if you could call it that an anniversary, but the 1 year count for the coronavirus being, considered by the World Health Organization as a pandemic, being officially named as a pandemic. So I want to hear your thoughts. This has devastated the pop culture community, the pop culture, or the realm of pop culture in so many ways. I mean, from movies, television, streaming, everything, the way we scoped out our pop culture, music, sports, the whole 9 yards. It has totally changed in the past year because of what's gone on. I want to hear your thoughts before we head to the break on what this has meant for pop culture.
I think I've been very doom and gloom over the past year as far as how this relates to pop culture. I've talked a lot about missed timelines. I've talked about, what have you. Really, I've talked about missed timelines. Let's call it what it is. But I think that we did some irreparable damage out the gate, and then all of a sudden things just really kicked off. And I think it's kicked off in the benefit of the consumer, the viewer, the whatever, what have you. It's Gerald, I think that we've done a lot of great things because of what has happened with COVID. When it comes to making modern day conveniences a little bit more convenient, you start talking about the food delivery that's occurred over the last year. You start talking about just anything curbside delivery, curbside pickup. When it comes to Target or Walmart or you name it, a lot of these retailers have done a lot to make themselves more accessible. So, on this anniversary, I do want to just point out that, it did suck last year. And I did talk a lot about missed timelines, but we've done a lot to push our society forward from a technological standpoint. And with that, I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in a terrible situation. I do want to point out that we're still in the heat of it, and everybody needs to keep doing their part and wear your mask and be responsible. That's all we need to do, and get your shots when it comes up, man. It's important that we all do our part, and that's all I can say, Gerald.
Well, there's a great sign that just as it was announced as we're talking right here that adults in the U.S., everybody 16 and older will be available or will be eligible to get vaccinated. I mean, we're making a big push for it at all 50 states by May the 1st. So you should be able to, as an American adult, be able to get vaccinated by May the 1st if you so choose to. At least that eligibility comes there. So that's a great sign. But first off, my thoughts and prayers are with the families that have been devastated and affected adversely by the coronavirus. There's so many people out there that I know that have been touched by it, unfortunately, that have been affected by it. And to those people, my continued thoughts and prayers, and from all of us in the pop culture cosmos. But to say this has been the most devastating thing to pop culture in history is understated because of the fact that it's changed the scope of the way we watch movies going forward in the future. Even as things do get better, there's still going to be people that want to go ahead now and go into a streaming future. There's people now that want to go ahead and see sports in a different way now. They want to go see movies. They want to go see they want to listen to music in a different fashion than they did before. There's people's lives have been changed, for good by what's happened with the coronavirus. Even if we do try to get back to some semblance normal, which we're on the path of doing right now. Right. But I will say, as a species, as a human species, one of our best abilities is the ability to adapt. And I think we've done a pretty darn good job of doing just that. What are your thoughts out there on the anniversary of the coronavirus being named by the World Health Organization as being a pandemic? We want to hear your thoughts in the past year of how you've been able to cope, how you've been able to try and deal with, and how you've been trying to able to consume your pop culture, and your thoughts on how pop culture has evolved in the past year. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, it is Vince Atulu from That Sports Card Show podcast. He's going to talk about the booming, which is one of the things that has been, one of the few things that has been booming under the coronavirus is the booming sports card industry. He's going to talk about that, some great things on there, and also, if you should go ahead and go look for those cards in the attic, go look for those cards in the closet. I mean, are they going to be something that you might want to go ahead and look back into and see their value, or should you jump into it yourself? We're going to talk with Vince Atulu from That Sports Card Show podcast right after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is PCC Multiverse. I want to thank so much Vince Atulu from That Sports Card Show podcast for being on the show today. But before we head on out, my friend, 1 week left. It was a slow week this week. I think everybody was taking like a sigh of relief, like an exhale after the 9 weeks of WandaVision. I think pop culture as a whole was kind of like, okay, we need a week off. We need a week off to recover because of how intense that was over the course of a 9-week period. But next week, we start off one of the big battles between DC and Marvel. And that's coming up mano a mano as far as DC and Marvel coming up next week on HBO Max. Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut, is going to be made available. It was partially available for a little while, 2 hours in, if you're watching Tom and Jerry earlier this week, and that was kind of a faux pas, but nobody got to see the full version of it because they cut it off after a couple hours. But the actual start date is next week, and then right after that on Fridays, because it's next Thursday for the Justice League, and on Friday, Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out on Disney+. So I wanted to ask you, my friend, next week, I think it's going to be a killer week in pop culture. We're going to have a lot to discuss this time next week. Are you getting pumped up? Are you getting amped? And are you getting excited for Justice League and Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
For sure, man. It's I'm not going to be. This is a quick announcement for the folks that listen. I won't be here next week. I'm going to be taking the week off. I'm celebrating my birthday. But
wouldn't you know it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
kidding, man. Don't worry about it.
But it's one of those. All right. So what I do want to say though is I'm very excited, and I wish I would be here next week so that we could talk about some of these releases that are coming out. I just rewatched the Justice League trailer right before we got on air, and it's a totally different story, man. When you look at what happened with production on that movie. In post-production, Zack Snyder had to leave the film just because of personal issues. His daughter had just passed. He needed to take some time to heal. I totally get that, but they brought in Joss Whedon, yeah. Joss, yeah. I always do that for some reason.
A lot of people did. I used to.
Yeah. But they brought in Joss Whedon, and he put a totally different spin on this movie.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, it was... That was not a great movie. Let's just call it what it is, man. It was a box office flop.
When Rob McCallum, and I'm having a continual conversation, this just chides me because I gave the movie a 5. That tells you right there, because he thought that's way too high a score. So that tells you right there.
Yeah. But I think this is very interesting. Fans and the actors apparently both rallied behind this call to get a Snyder cut. And so, it's really surprising to me that we're doing this, but at the same time, I appreciate it. This is a studio allowing somebody to really see their vision come true. And so I do appreciate it from that point of view. Am I going to watch it? Yeah, I'll watch it, but is it going to replace the abomination that occurred in 2017? No.
I think that's where I disagree with you. I think I can totally obliterate it out of my mind, the previous iteration, if this is really good, because as Josh and I talk about on the Pop Culture Cosmos, this could be something I'm really get excited for, again, for the DC Universe, because I'm not the biggest fan of the DC Universe. This could get me excited for it. I would pay money to see the Hall of Villains versus the Justice League. I would love to see that. And they hinted towards that in the original, as far as the end credit scene. And this will expand upon it from what I'm hearing. And thank you, by the way, to Wesley Hoover for the thumbs up. But I wanted to go ahead and say this, that I think it does get me excited. Now, right now, unless it's extremely, wildly popular, it will not get a sequel because they've already actually posted the storylines for the number 2 and 3 on social media, so they don't think that's going to be done. But unless it's extremely popular, HBO Max will not okay it, which I'm disappointed by. But I think just the prospect, not of Darkseid, because the Darkseid deal, okay, I'm going to see how good he is compared to Thanos, because I'm always going to put that in my mind, comparing him to Thanos. But to me, the prospects of what you could actually do more with the series, I'm actually very excited about those prospects.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me. I had to refresh my memory on that whole 2 and 3 had already been released. But when we were sitting here looking at the trailer, that's one of those things that HBO Max, man, they're going to be kicking themselves if this really does blow up, because how do you go back and make those movies after you've released the entire script, or the plot, the storyline, not the script. But dude, Gerald, at the end of the day, I haven't really been extremely excited for a DC movie since a Christopher Nolan Batman, but I I don't want to, make the audience, really gasp there. But, Wonder Woman's been outstanding. I've enjoyed that franchise. I enjoyed what they've done with it. But I'll be entirely honest, it's been since Christopher Nolan had Batman that I've truly, truly, truly been jazzed to go see a DC movie.
Well, I was kind of hyped up for Justice League because I'd really been disappointed by the Superman movies. And, obviously we have not had some great outings. Aquaman was kind of a nice little high as far as from a, action standpoint. It was all right. But Wonder Woman was pretty good. Wonder Woman 84 was not so good. It's had DC Universe has had its highs and lows. The Joker was outstanding, but you really can't associate that with the current line of Justice League and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be excited what's going on with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think it's going to be just something that can it do enough to provide more interest into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Can it keep that momentum going? I think it's going to. I think it comes back to more something, part of the universe we're more familiar with as far as the Captain America side of the universe. That's what I'm relating it to because that's more action-based, more action-oriented, more straightforward at you. WandaVision had you guessing and each and every week what's going on, things of that nature, which was kind of cool for 9 weeks. But I think this is more traditional Marvel that we're going to see from Falcon and Winter Soldier. And for that, I'm excited to step into that as well.
Yeah, I agree 1,000% with that, man. It's going to be really hard to ride the energy that Mandalorian, that WandaVision all laid down here for, in the lead up to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's going to be hard to do that. But at the same time, I do, if I have any trust, it's going to be in Disney to keep this Marvel energy moving forward and keep Disney Plus moving forward past 100 million subscribers, man.
Oh, yeah. They're still quite a ways away. There's still half of what Netflix has. But again, going to 100 million subscribers in less than 2 years, it's faster than any other streaming service to my knowledge. That actually built it up in an organic way, not like Apple Plus, who could just, everybody's got Apple Plus and that's it. That's right, one way. That's kind of different. But I will say this. I am very excited for the future for pop culture, obviously starting next week. Then we have Godzilla versus Kong. Then we have some other stuff coming down from HBO Max. We have other stuff that's coming on the way as far as movies are concerned, are going to be popping up all over in theaters. So people might have to go back to theaters to watch first run movies once again. That might be something of great interest to people out there. We'll see. But I am excited for the future of pop culture. I know it's been a rough year for everybody out there. Please, we're getting through it. It's almost there. The light's at the end of the tunnel. We're just almost there. I know I sound like a broken record, but if everybody stays positive, everybody just keeps on doing what Marcus had said about just trying to be smart and safe, we'll get through this together and we'll get back into some great pop culture very soon. But Marcus, it's been a great episode. I did want to say you're not going to be here next week, but you could be here on not this Monday, but the next Mondays if you want, because we'll be live from PodVCon here, not this weekend, but the next. So I'd really like to invite you to join Josh and I on PodVCon a couple Sundays from now, if you can, so we can talk the latest in pop culture. And Falcon and Winter Soldier will have come out. Yep. Justice League will have come out. And we could go ahead and share our thoughts right there and then if you want.
Man, Gerald, I'll be there. With a Sunday like that, you can't really miss, man. It's going to be a great episode. Number one, number two, going to be driven by a lot of great discussion, and it's really going to revolve. I have a feeling we're going to spend our entire time on Falcon the Winter Soldier and Justice League, and that's fine. We'll have a lot to discuss. But yeah, folks, keep an eye out for PodVCon. We'll be there, and
that'll be Sunday, March 21st. Just to let everybody know, I'll give everybody the time. I think it's going to be right around noon Pacific, but I'll give everybody the specific time on next week's Pop Culture Cosmos. But I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
My last thoughts are that the LA theaters are starting to reopen, and that could spell day and date for a lot of titles moving forward versus just, pushing some titles off or just putting them on the streaming services only. So folks, let's have some hope. We're looking forward to the future, and do your part so that we can get back to the movie theaters and watch these on the big screen.
I'm just going to tell you, my friend, with Black Widow being almost confirmed by Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney, that it's coming out still on May 7th and being targeted for that. I have a feeling it's not going to, and I hope I'm wrong because I'd rather see it on Disney Plus right now because I still don't think it's 100% safe, but that's just my personal opinion. And I think it's just going to be released after what we saw with Raya and the Last Dragon having underwhelming monetary performance because it was, because the Cinemark theater chain didn't show, didn't show Raya and the Last Dragon, which was, I think, the third largest chain here in the U.S. Raya and the Dragon took a big hit. I think that sent out a message to Disney that they can't do day and date and get away with it, even if they are charging $30. So I think they're going to go ahead and release it to theaters first on May the 7th. All right, man. But those are my thoughts. Those are your thoughts. It's been a great episode, my friend. I know you're not going to be here next week. I wish you continued safety. I wish you continued health. And hopefully I'll see you at PodVCon right here for us at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Marcus de la Garza, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great